Today's guest has lived a life marked by trauma, transformation, and tenacity. From a turbulent childhood and military services to 4 marriages, fatherhood, and a personal career, he's now on a mission to help others heal through community and conversation. If you're a woman listening to today's episode and you have found yourself on the other side of a similar situation, I welcome you to listen to the episode with an open mind. I invite you to make space for a different perspective and recognize that we're all a result of what we've been exposed to and are constantly practicing navigating trauma and real-time response in challenging situations. Enjoy the episode.
I hope it
Fantastic.
goes well.
You know what? Let's just think about it like this. The worst thing that can happen is that there's just not going to be a recording at the end of this, and we had a fantastic conversation. And until next time, we have learned how to use our tools more properly and know how to utilize it so we don't make a mistake the second time around.
Sounds
And
good.
I think we're just going to take it from there. Well, first and foremost, I'm just very excited to have you on my podcast, Brendan. I did listen to a few of your episodes, like I said to you already, and I'm very, very intrigued by your story. I would love for you to just kind of share with my listeners what mission it is that you are on right now.
Yeah, first of all, let me say thank you for having me and thank you for listening to my episodes. And also, I've listened to your entire podcast. It's
So
great. It's amazing. So anyone that's listening to this is if this is your first podcast for Mags, listen to the whole thing. She's awesome. Phenomenal.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You deserve it. A lot of people that know me and love me and know my life story have said, your life story is so unique. It's so different. The things you've had to go through, the obstacles you've overcome, and all those things to be where you are today. They kept telling me, you need to write a book. And I actually tried a couple times to sit down and start writing a book, and I just don't have it in me. I don't have what it takes to just sit and write. So one day it hit me like, well, I can just record the whole thing. I can just podcast it. My undergraduate degrees in communications, I actually did sports broadcasting on TV and on the radio. And I thought I'm comfortable in front of a microphone. So I'll just podcast my life story, and really with no understanding of where it would go or what I might do. But then I recorded all the episodes. I didn't put them on the air. I didn't make them live. I just recorded them all first before I did anything. And as I was doing that, I thought, you know what, I could take my podcast in this direction and I could become a life coach. So I went and got life coach certified. And then also I thought, well, this would be really great for other trauma survivors. It would be really great for anyone trying to, get self-help or self-improvement. And so those are really the people that I'm trying to target, the trauma, self-help, self-improvement people. Right. And that's what it has morphed into.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I do also appreciate the way that you are communicating your story so gracefully on your podcast. Granted that you do have a very complicated past. You do share some elements of growing up without your biological father. You share elements of having an abusive stepfather and how your mom was kind of constantly in and out of toxic relationships that obviously bled into your own relationship with a parent, but also with your siblings. Could you talk a little bit more about how you all, like the realization that came one day when you just understood how dysfunctional it all was and how it was way out of your control, and yet how it shaped you, and now you kind of had this journey ahead of you where you knew you needed to make a change. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So, as a young boy, I'm just kind of doing what we do, living life and flying through life and not really seeing that my life is abnormal in any way. But as you start to get a little older and as you start to get a little smarter, I would say in my early teen years because I had a brother that was 10 years younger than I was, and I almost felt like a parent to him,
Mm,
because his father and my mother, they just weren't getting it done, frankly. So you just feel that need to step in and take that role. And once you start doing that, it starts opening your mind and your eyes to seeing all the things that just aren't right. All the
right.
things that make you go, oh my God, how I wouldn't want to treat my kids this way. I wouldn't want my kids to grow up in this environment. And so
Hmm.
that's kind of how it all started, that I started looking at my family like, okay, I don't want to be like these people. I love them for who they are because they are my family, but
Hmm.
they're alcoholics, they're life sucks type of people. And I just kept
Hmm.
thinking, who wants to live a life like that? And if you have the power to change it, why don't you just change it? Why don't you just make your life better, live a happier life? So somewhere that got in my brain as an early teenager, and I just stuck with that. I just kept it in my head like, this is not my real environment. This is not going to be my life. I just have to reach a certain age and I can go make my own life happen. And that's what I did.
Yeah, I mean that's beautiful. Essentially, what it sounds like you did was realize that I have to take responsibility. It's in my hands now. There's no way that anyone else is going to come here and do it for me. Because look around me. This is what's going on when no one does anything. So it's a really great observation, and I do believe that, as I'm sure you know by listening to my podcast at this point, is that a lot of what I want to do is for all of us to just share our experiences to kind of humanize all of us a little bit, because I do believe that there are many people out there who have gone through a lot of similar stuff. And the more we talk about it and the more we share those stories, we can all feel somewhat more validated in knowing that maybe it's not just me. Because I think we over dramatize it and make it all about ourselves. But when we share these stories, we help each other and we impact each other. And so if there's one thing that you would want for my listeners, maybe especially men, to take away from your story, what would be your greatest advice?
Wow, that's a big one to chew off right there. So I would have a lot to say to that, but to try to sum it up really, I guess, briefly and not make it too long, I would say as men, we have this, I don't know if it's natural instinct or societal expectations, but we do want to be the provider, right? We do want to be the one that's kind of leading the family and making sure the family's getting taken care of and all of those things. And sometimes life just kicks you off of that pedestal. You're going along, you're trying to do those things. And it happened to me a couple times. I got laid off a couple times and I was the sole provider for my family. And I even became suicidal when that
Mm,
happened. So all I could have was this short view in front of me of what my life is right now. And I wasn't looking long term. So what
mm,
I would say is for every man is no matter what you're going through, I know this is so cliche and everyone's heard it 1,000 times and they're going to be like, oh, Brandon, you're not telling me anything I haven't already heard. But it is, this too shall pass. And I feel like when you're in a rough time, that is so important to remember. You have to remember that in the worst of times because
yeah.
it will pass and things will get better. You just have to give it a chance. You have to make the right choices first of all. Don't give in to whatever demon is calling at you when you're in the lowest points of your life, and continue to make the right choices and then continue to believe it will pass, and it
Mm.
will.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I've definitely living by that many times. It's definitely been kind of a motto whenever going through, for me, like the toughest things that I've kind of had to encounter or go through has typically been heartbreak. And yeah, that was kind of had to be a ringer at the end of it when you've been here before, you've seen the situation, but this too shall pass. Like there was something that you said that triggered a thought in me because you were saying that you were the sole provider for your family and that all men is want to is to become providers. What is it that kind of drives you to believe that well, okay, let me put it like this because I agree with you. Like I definitely view men as like the
I,
provider. I just don't
I
think
know you
all
do.
men view themselves as the provider. I don't think that men necessarily see themselves in that position. I have a theory and I'll share it with you, but I would want to hear like what are your theory as to why what is it a man is, if anything, lacking or needing to kind of redirect or understand in order to kind of get that calling? Because I don't think every man has that calling. And there could be many reasons as to why. But what do you believe?
So I will say this. I had to grow into this provider role because I didn't see it, right? I didn't have a model of that growing up. And I also grew up very poor. So once I got on my own and I started making money, I was kind of selfish, right? I was like, I didn't have money. Now I have it. I want to take care of myself, right? So that was my initial feelings. And then eventually over time, I had a son, my first son. And then there was this thing now that was more important than me, right? It meant more to me than I meant to myself. And that genuinely was the first time that ever happened in my life. And then that's when I got kicked into the provider mode. And I started talking to other men that were also providers, and they would tell me why we should be providers because I would actually kind of get pissed off, frankly, that my ex-wife didn't work, she didn't contribute, right? It's like, why am I funding her whole life because we made a child together? And then some other men broke it down to me and I was like, yeah, you know what, okay, that makes sense. So then it just started becoming my way of life. It started becoming my way of thinking. Now, being someone that has young sons, I have three sons, and
Mm-hmm.
and as much as I am this way, and as much as I try to instill my beliefs into them, they're not me. They don't think like me. They don't have the same thoughts that I have about man. I have a son that's going to be 18 in a few months. I can't even get him to want to desire to do anything with his life. And this is a battle we've had for a year and a half, 2 years. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
telling him, like, you need to start thinking about your future, what you want to do with your life. And all he was keeps saying to me still to this day is, I don't know what I want to do with my life. There's nothing that seems valuable to me or good to me. Okay, now let's back this up a little bit. This is probably going to piss some people off, but I'm just going to be honest, okay? Um
Okay.
we live in a society now, especially America, where divorce is the norm. It's the normal. And sadly, unfortunately, a lot of time in divorce, fathers either become absent or mothers will use the children as pawns in their game. And then the father, even if he wants to be there, he doesn't really get to be who he would be if he was there full time
Right.
father figure.
Right.
And so mothers in their good hearts and their best intents, they really try to raise their sons with love and care and kindness. But what they cannot do is teach them how to be men. And that's what a lot of young men are missing nowadays.
Right.
That's why I am having this struggle because my exes don't have the same points of view that I do for life and my sons and what that should look like for them. I want my sons to be independent, become men, take care of their families. And I didn't learn how to be a man because, I basically had a single mother. Even though I had a stepfather, he wasn't really a father. He was just an existence in the home that made my life miserable. Um, so just fathers not having a chance to be fathers. And I'm not saying it's all the mother's fault. Of course, many men leave, right? I get that. That
Right, right.
happens. So, what I'm saying is, though, nothing's 100%. Women can't teach sons how to be a man, no more than men can teach daughters how to be a woman, right?
Mhm.
It is what it is, and that's what's hurting our society.
I also do believe that there's an element of having those models to look to. What I was thinking about is that when when you had the father figure that you saw, I mean the one that you observed, at least up until a certain age when you recognize that's not the kind of father figure that I want to look up to, because you could have also easily gone into the same habit. You could have developed the same way of communicating or dealing with confrontation. So in that sense, do you know what it was in your life to make decisions that are better for your family and for yourself, as opposed to walking down that same route? Because it must have been some sort of influence there.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. That's a great question. And so I'll just start with this. I'm not perfect. I made plenty of mistakes along the way. And just like anyone, I still am continuing to grow and learn as a man. But I will say this, when I was young, I was a kinder, softer, sweeter young man. My mom lovingly tells people I was an angel as a child and easy to raise. Um, and so uh, I just had a kinder heart, but so I could clearly see watching my mom get beat up and get beat growing up that was horrible, that was wrong. And I I always believed it was never right for a man to put his hands on a woman. I've always believed that. I still believe that. And I still screwed up because that was the bar for me, right? I would see these ugly, disgusting, nasty fights that were physically abusive, verbally abusive, just as nasty as they can be. I never learned how to fight and communicate in arguments fair. I used to say things in arguments that were nasty. I would cut to the bone, because when I got mad, I really got into an I don't give a fuck mode. Well, you're right now, you're my enemy. And this could be my wife, right? But in that moment when we're fighting and she's being mean to me, now she feels like an enemy. And
Mhm.
so I would be nasty with my words and I would say cutting, hurting things, and then we would, get over the fight, whatever, and life would go on. And I already had the built in defense mechanism to
Mhm.
forget bad things, right? If it was bad because of the way I grew up, I knew how to just move it to the back of my mind and never think of it again. But not everyone has that. So the fights would be over and I would be trying to, recover the relationship and she would still be hurting, because I would have said some mean, nasty things. And my thought process when I was younger was, well, I'm not beating on you. I'm not hitting you. You should be
Right.
thankful that I'm not physically abusing you.
Mhm.
So I had to learn how to fight fair. But when the fight is over and we've recovered, I forget that shit. I let it go. So I had to learn that.
Yeah, I do love that you have this ability to tie the physical abuse that you observed and understanding that the way that it manifested in your life was more kind of a verbal way of communicating that was more, I'm not saying violently, but at least more aggressive, probably, like the way that you're describing it yourself. And I believe that that is probably true for a lot of people. And just to be able to kind of see that and to recognize that, like, okay, but it's also my responsibility to change that. So that kind of leads me to be a little bit curious if you're okay talking about it. Granted that you've shared that on your podcast that you have you're on your fourth marriage right now. And
Yes.
I assume that since you're kind of talking about how you were communicating with your wife, I assume every single one of these marriages have taught you something significant. I definitely can relate to how all of the relationships that I've been in myself have shaped me. So if you were going to kind of talk about like what the first marriage taught you, and what you look back at as the most valuable thing that came from that, what are some reflections from the first and till now?
Yeah, those are great questions, great points. And so I can do like a more higher arching overview because some of it's been so long. I can't remember the exact details. The first time I got divorced, I was 24 years old. I'm almost 52 now. So
Right.
that's a long time ago. But I will say this. So every marriage was different. Every partner that I picked is significantly different. My first marriage, she was very negative. She had a very negative outlook on life. And she was actually really good to me. She was really kind to me. She put up with a lot of shit. I was very immature. I was less of a husband and more of like a shitty boyfriend, right? I
Mhm.
I watched a lot of sports. I played a lot of sports. I was in the Air Force. I traveled out into the missile field for 3 days at a time, where I would eat, sleep, work there for 3 days, and then
Mhm.
when I would come home on my days off, I cared about doing what I wanted to do. And she put up all with all that. She was really kind to me, but her outlook on life was just so negative. It was so draining. It was just like being around this negative energy all the time. And I just reached a point where I just couldn't put up with it anymore. I just couldn't do it. So that's when I decided to leave her. And so my second wife, let me just start by saying we were together 5 years, but we were married 6 months. Okay. So,
Oh.
yeah, yeah. So I almost don't even count that marriage. So this is what happened. I was single now in college, going to the gym, working out in college, and there was this bombshell that kept coming in there to work out. She had the face of Angelina Jolie, the body of a fitness model. And every time I saw her, I would just be like, "Oh my God, that girl is so hot." And then one day, my roommate, I was telling my roommate this, and he calls me out. He's like, "Stop being a bitch. Like, go up to her, talk to her." Right. So, and then I felt challenged at that point. So the next day I was like, you know what? All right, fuck you. I'm going to do it. I'm not a bitch. So then the next day I did it, and she actually shot me down the first time we met. And I get into all this story on my podcast, so I won't get too deep. But the point is we ended up getting together, and she was beautiful. She was intelligent. She had a 4.0 GPA, master's degree in chemistry. She had an eidetic memory.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, she just, like, on paper, you would think she was like the perfect woman, right? But because she was all the things I just described, in her mind, she was never wrong. Things always had to go her way, or there was hell to pay, and there was just no compromise in her. There was just no getting her to see things from your point of view, because she was smarter than you and she knew what she was talking about, right? So that made it really, really hard to get along with her. And so I actually never thought about marrying her, and she gave me an ultimatum at one point, and the ultimatum was, and we were living together, it was either we go get married at the courthouse now, or you get the hell out of the house.
Mm.
And so that's what it was. I wasn't ready for it to end. Um, so I married her. And after we got married, she just got worse. All that stuff I was telling you, she just amplified it, right? Like, "Oh, we're married now. You're stuck with me. So now you have to listen to everything you have to say. I have to say, you have to do everything I want." And
Mm.
immediately I regretted it. And so yeah, I left her, and she's actually the reason I joined the army, because we had this toxic magnetic pull to each other that even though we were getting divorced and we weren't together, we also couldn't stay away from each other.
All
Um,
right. Yeah. The traditional push and pull.
yeah, yeah. So I really joined the army. That was one of the main reasons I had joined the army, was to get the hell away from her, because I couldn't be in her vicinity and not, be drawn in, be sucked in. Like, even if I was where I was and she came to me, I couldn't be like, "No, get away from me." I was, it was what it was. So then the third time around, I thought I had met the woman I was going to spend the rest of my life with. She was 11 years younger than I was, but she had big plans. She had big dreams. She was at the University of Arizona getting her bachelor's degree. She was going to get a, a doctorate in physical therapy. She wanted to be a pediatric physical therapist. And, that relationship was all good. She was really good to me and everything was going well. And then we got married while she was getting her bachelor's degree. And then she was like, all right, I want to get pregnant and I'm done working. So, like, this was nothing we had planned. She just flipped the script on me right after we got married. And I wasn't happy about it, but I gave into it. I married this woman. So, this is what she wanted to do. All right, fine. We'll have kids and you'll raise the kids. And so, 12 years later, after telling me for like 11 years, I love you so much. My life is so great because of you. I couldn't imagine my life without you. We got in an argument and I threatened to divorce her. And I was angry. And she's like, all right, fine, we're getting divorced. And I thought she was angry too. And I thought we were just fighting. But no, she stuck with it. And we actually got divorced kind of out of nowhere, in my opinion,
Mm.
from a fight where I threatened it. And she said, all right, you're going to threaten me. We're going to do it. So we did. We got divorced. And that was devastating to me because I lost my family and my job at the same time. I got laid off. So I was at the lowest point in my life at that
Mhm.
time. Um, and so when I did recover eventually, I actually was watching a show. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called 90 Day Fiance.
I'm familiar. I haven't
Yeah.
watched it, but I'm familiar. Yeah.
Okay. So, I kept seeing, men and women meeting amazing people from all over the world and getting engaged and bringing them to America. And I thought, you know what? Hell, I've been married to three American women. Let me give someone else from another country a try. So that's what I did. And I end up meeting my wife in Brazil. And she has the more older, more traditional values that I have. And even though, she's actually going to law school to get her JD and she's going to be a lawyer and probably be more successful in life than I've ever been. But we just match so well in personality and the way we think and the way we view life. And it's just so different than any other relationship I've ever had in a great way.
Well, that's nice. I love to hear that. It's definitely been a bit of a journey that you've been on from the first to the last, kind of escalated a little bit every time it seems like. So based off of what you've heard from my podcast, have you given any thought into how attachment played a role into all of this? Because I'm sure you know at this point that I believe that we're all kind of attracting this kind of energy, like it's not a coincidence that we are together with who we are together with at that specific season of our lives. That is also the frequency in which we're at. Hence, that's why we kind of attract them, and which kind of evens the balance out a little bit because we're always so drawn to, I mean, when we're in the midst of it and going through the depths of pain, in a heartbreak, then it's very easy to want to blame someone or look to someone and kind of see how they are the reason for why we are in the situation that we are, when at the end of the day it's just two people who aren't compatible, who don't know how to communicate with each other and don't know how to apply their love language to the other person simply because it's not the same, right? And have you given any kind of thoughts as to how that played a part in your relationships and how that looks any different now?
Yeah, and I just have to throw this in here real quick. I can't wait to flip the script and have you on my podcast and be asking with the questions because listening to your podcast, there are many things I want to discuss with you as well.
I bet.
Um, so yeah, that's a good point. I thought when I was young, I was this kind, sweet, gentle, caring guy, kid, if you will, and I over romanticized love. I absolutely 100% did. And I'm not saying love isn't great. Hell yeah, love's amazing. Love is the best, right? When you have someone that loves you and you love them and the relationship's great and you're compatible, you can't beat it. It's the best thing. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things have to come together for that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't actually don't hate anyone in this world. No one, because I understand that all my failed relationships failed because we didn't belong together. We weren't right. But I have exes that absolutely hate me, won't talk to me, won't have anything to do with me. I'm not trying to be cocky when I say this. This is just me. I think they actually know that I'm such a good guy and I'm a good person and all the things that come with being with me. They're more just very angry that it didn't work out. So I'm the
Mm-hmm.
face of that.
Right. I do believe that there's definitely a component to when going through a breakup, because I definitely have this idea in my head that men and women deal with it very differently. And it almost sounds like we almost think the same, because I think that's how we think as well. That like we know what we brought to the relationship. We knew we were kind of like quote unquote the good, right? We're always going to be the hero in our own story.
Right.
And I know that I've definitely thought the same, that like, well, it's going to be hard to find someone as good as me, like, of course we've thought those thoughts. Like I can definitely attest to that. However, I think I came to this point where the narrative isn't so much about that anymore, because what I realized, although those relationships didn't work out, the ones that hurt the most, the ones that angered me the most, the ones that I've kind of talked about as the most kind of pivotal ones, they're rooted in a lot of anger, because I feel as though I missed out on this life that I imagined we'd have together, and because they didn't want to share that, and like share that effort, to share the responsibility that it takes to make a relationship and a commitment work. Like, of course, a lot of anger is going to be pointed in that direction, and but it's ultimately rooted in hurt, right? And I
Yes.
think this is probably true for yourself, and maybe even your ex-wives, right? That like it is this thing that it represents. I think you did a good job of kind of saying that. It's like, well, it's not so much about the person that did it, but it's about what that situation represented in your life at that point. Yeah, I can relate to that, because when I refer to some of my exes, it is also with a lot of anger and a lot of frustration, but it's all rooted in the fact that, well, screw you for robbing me from this beautiful future I had made up in my mind.
No, I totally agree, and I
Yeah.
definitely believe that's what's happening because a lot of failures in my relationships, and even still sometimes in the problems that I have with my current wife, when we do have problems, come from expectation, right?
Yeah,
And
for
the
sure.
saying, expectation is the thief of joy. When you put expectations on other people, that's
Right. Yes.
projecting what you want them to be
Yeah.
and you expect
Sure.
them to be, right? And that may not be who they are. So you're not loving them for who they are. You're loving them for who you think they can be or can become.
Yeah.
And that's not the right way to treat any relationship,
Right.
whether you're a man or a woman. You have to love a person for who they are.
And with those wise words from Brandon, I will leave the rest for part two. So stay tuned for a new episode next week. Until then, stay curious and get to know yourself better. Go check out the Life is Crazy podcast and hear Brandon share how life indeed is crazy. Have fun.